Okay? So let me give you a little more rationale. And so you don't get caught up in all of the information that's out there that sounds interesting to read and get carried away with, but many times it causes you to lose your focus. The reality is that there is very, very little that is new in the world around us. That's true. I was listening, I don't know if any of you are a fan of NPR like me. I listen to NPR as often as I possibly can. And it's such an educational experience. There's a fellow that wrote a book, and he was saying something like 90-something% of what we do, is a repetition of what was already there. I go to art shows intentionally, looking for creativity, something brand new. I go to the art show season is starting now, and I will go to as many of them from here to Jupiter to even the West Coast, Sarasota, as I can muster up. I love seeing new things, new ideas, new creativity. People think of artists as creative folks, don't you? Yeah. Most artists are not creative. The good artists are innovators. They take someone else's stuff and they do something with it. Now, many people call that creativity. No, that's innovation. I'll give you another example. For many years, and I use this a lot, and ladies might not be able to relate to this very well, but let me try it anyway. For many, many years on automobiles, we used what was called the bias ply tire. Now, the bias ply tire had the treads. You all know what threads are, right? They wrapped around the tire this way. Okay? The thought was for many years, in order to make a tire that was strong, that wouldn't blow out very easily, we needed the threads to go around the tire to hold it in place. And they put wire in those threads. You know, all of the years, if you're older than 25, you'll know this. They advertised them with wire, this and that. And the problem was, back in those days, if you noticed when you drove the expressways, especially in Florida, you saw carcasses of tires all over the road. The bias ply tire created a lot of heat. In fact, the noise that you hear when you hear cars is always the tires, not really the car itself. And so what they decided to do some years ago, it's been about 20, 30 years now, when use of laser beams came along, was to make a more round tire. It's almost perfectly round. It's not perfect, but close, by using lasers. So the molding of the tire is so precise now that they could really use radial tires, which means the treads run this way. Why? Well, they use less energy. They're not as heat. They don't generate the heat. They don't blow apart, except the walls are not as strong as the bias ply tires. You all realize that if you get a hole in the wall of the tire, you got to get a new tire. That's because they use a radial approach, right? Now, some people would think that was creativity. No, that's innovation. You took what was already there with the laser beam, and you used it to make a more perfectly round tire. It's not perfect because when you still get weights on your tires, right? When you go have a new tire put on, they put weights on. So it's not perfect, but it's close. That's innovation. Rarely when I go to an art show will I find creativity. Very, very rarely. Well, think about it. You don't have to agree with me. That's not a requirement.
My brother's a very hater. And the way he looks for inspiration to be unique, totally apart. He travels. He spent 2 months in Italy.
Doing what?
Nothing. Just observing, just looking.
Looking at other people's work, right? No. You sure you want to go on this path? There's nothing wrong with innovation. Innovation is what makes the world work.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What makes Picasso? What makes him unique, way ahead of his time, that today his paintings are worth?
I'm not arguing that Picasso wasn't creative. I'm not arguing that. No. I said most artists, not all. Okay. There's a Picasso out there. Yeah, there is. There's always one or two creative people that keep us moving. An R&D group. Do you think the majority of the people in an R&D group, a successful R&D group, do you think most of them are creative people or innovators? You got it. Now, let's take a good example. Who created the first electric bulb to work? Edison. If you ever go to his home over in Fort Myers, And if you like this stuff as I do, you'll go visit that home, spend about 2 or 3 hours, and you'll figure out something about creativity and innovation. Edison was a highly creative person. Highly creative. Generally, highly creative people don't do much with their creativity. It takes an innovator to take their ideas and turn them into practical application. Now, but when you see pictures of Edison, you know, he also is credited with the first full electrical grid in a city, Lower Manhattan, New York. But it was a DC cart. He missed it on that one. But when you see the pictures of him doing that, all you see is himself and one other person. You ever notice that about Edison? The truth is that he had over 300 people working with him in his labs that did all the work. He had over 100 patents on the wet cell batteries in cars. Over 100. Do you think he did all that work? His people did the work, the innovators. Now, some of them had creativity as a part of their makeup. Most people do. Okay? Most of us have some creativity as a part of our makeup, but we're predominantly innovators.
Well, you're never successful by yourself.
May I
Nobody.
say something?
Sure you can.
Because since I'm in the costume business,
Mhm.
most people that do costumes right now, they have people that do it for them. They just a sketch that is barely whatever. It's the person in the sewing machine
That's right.
that puts the whole thing together. This is why I'm having an issue because I do the two things at the same time. And when I have approached those people that have done them like from scratch with their hands,
Mhm.
the whole entire things, they're in a corner by the innovators or whoever controls our market, and they're in a corner and they're there and they don't let you sell your stuff.
Well,
Even though it's better,
okay.
and you make it out of scratch because the people that at
Well,
least in my
let me make it clear to you. I'm not suggesting that one is better than the other. I'm telling you that both are absolutely essential.
In my business, I'm telling you, whoever calls themselves as a designer,
Yeah.
they have no clue on how to stitch a dress.
Yeah.
They have no clue on what goes
But-
in there. They're just some weird ideas, and I'm saying weird ideas because there's a lot of weird cloth. I mean, who puts those transparent?
Okay,
dresses
I got you.
that
I'm
have
agreeing with you. But I don't want to get into a long discussion on it because I get carried away myself, so I got to watch it. My little head says, don't do that because you're going to get carried away. Because I'll get carried away on that topic. But the truth is that the world has to have both. Okay? But let's not overvalue creativity over innovation. And the whole point was when we look at the 9-dot exercise, the box, we all basically work in that box. Most of us do. And if we don't do well within the box, then we have a hell of a time dealing outside of the box. Now, when I assess people and look at the mixture of creativity versus innovation, almost everyone has a mixture of both. That's what the balancing in life is critical. I do have a client that I'm working with now that is all creativity. And as I told her, you can't walk and chew gum at the same time, can you? Because creative people, they're out there. They're always asking the question, what if? But they ask it about everything they encounter and it's very difficult for them to be practical. Okay, so much for that. Let's talk about this overall process. I have outlined for you, if you want to manage your career transition particularly well, these are the components of that process. Has anyone ever shown you this before? Anything that's like this?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds like a marketing plan to me.
Good. You've got to have a marketing plan, but as you'll notice, box number 3 talks about targeting. Box number 2 is all about marketing, right? A marketing plan is specific to your own particular needs, what you're trying to achieve. Now, you see that first box is preparation, and preparation is very, very important, but many people start looking for a job or trying to manage their career without the proper level of preparation. And it's like Yogi says, we keep making the wrong mistakes over and over again. Yes, ma'am?
Why would you put marketing before targeting? You have to know your market before, you have to know your target before you can market,
Actually, you use marketing to develop your target.
right?
You gotta develop first, before you target.
Right. Well, then you know your marketing, okay.
Well, no, I want you to make sense out of it. Does it make
I
sense?
understand, but you have to know your market before your target.
That's correct.
But to know, you have to establish the target, then refine your targeting. That's what I meant.
Think about it,
You have a target, and then you have to
No,
define
it could be backwards,
your,
the fire backwards.
Yeah.
You have to find, what he said, you prepare this, okay? He said, I have this product. Okay, now you have to do a strategic roadmap. How I'm gonna get my product to the market.
Well, you have to know where you wanna go, and then you can find the path,
Well-
that's all I'm saying.
Actually,
You're
it's
targeting,
a lot simpler than all of that.
Yeah.
Okay? Develop your marketing approach. It allows you to target where you want to go.
That's right.
Because you develop the marketing is primarily information gathering. That's primarily what marketing is. You're gathering information. You need to ask the right questions of the right people, the right groups of people. You need to get all that data, make sense out of it, and now you can target. That's what this is.
Okay.
But these are the steps, these are the critical steps in your process. And if you don't have all of them in play, you're likely not to end up where you should be. Mike, are you there?
This is very important for me because in my particular field is extremely specialized.
Mhm.
Very, very difficult to find a job in my area.
What is it again?
I'm a records manager, records and information management. So what I have to do is I have to look at the market and design the product around what the need is in the market. So I have to identify transferable skills and create profiles. Create profiles that can fit in the market. In other words, the market disposes, man proposes. You've heard that before. And I've got to look and say, where else and how else can I sell these skill sets and repackage these skill sets? So for me, I got to do it kind of the opposite way. I got to look at where and how can I sell these skill sets, and then design the product around that.
When in reverse, you said exactly the same thing. You got to look at where and all of that. Well, that's marketing. Gathering the information, making sense out of it to develop it.
But I need to know the set of targets, the
Right.
possible set of targets, in order to design the product. They're the consumers.
Okay, I agree. You have to have some direction. That's correct.
Market and marketing.
Wait. This is at a different level of marketing. You do have to have some basic things in place in order for you to begin marketing. That's why the first step is preparation. Out of preparation comes some of that basic information that you need to get started. So I see what you're saying. There needs to be some objectives, some points of focus in order for you to develop any kind of marketing. That's correct. That comes out of the preparation phase. But when you get into the marketing phase, now we take that information, now we do a much broader bit of gathering information, to develop a much clearer focus as to where we want to go. That's the targeting piece. See? Okay, so you don't just run right out and think you know where you want to go and start doing it. That's not the way it really works. But if you do the preparation really well, it gives you an idea as to what you need to have included in your overall strategy. And then you go out and confirm that through your marketing effort. And then after that, you target where you want to be. Make sense? How many of you thought about your transition this way? You have? Good. All right, so we're going to fill in the blanks for you. Let's start with understanding where jobs exist. Now, some of you have seen this, and did you pay much attention to this before? Almost any real good literature on the subject of where jobs exist, you'll see something like the 80-20 breakdown in the marketplace. Now, when you start talking about publicized jobs that are posted on the internet, and so forth, you're dealing with the reactive marketplace. 20% of the jobs are found in the reactive marketplace in a good time. Now, I will tell you during the last 10 years, there's been some up and down times, and actually less than 20% were out there. But it's rarely, I've never seen it be more than 20. It's less than that normally. So how many of you spend most of your time basically looking for a job on the internet? Think about that question. When I say most of your time, I mean essentially that, most of your time. How many hours a day do you spend in front of the computer, looking on job boards, responding to advertised positions? You got to look at your time. Time is money. Time is your life. So if you're spending a lot of your time where 20% of the opportunity lies, does that make a lot of good sense? So if you're going to spend more than 20% of your time looking for advertised positions, you are probably making a mistake. You should spend the 20%. Don't misunderstand me. Don't ignore it. Okay? But 80% of the opportunity lies in the proactive job market. And that's where you should be spending most of your time. You're thinking. What are your thoughts?
I'm just thinking in everything that you have, really. The reactive and the proactive, I never thought of it that way. And I'm kind of in a unique position because do have a job. Came with my wife having to do with what she's doing, but I'm applying it to myself now.
Should.
And everything on looking forward, because nothing's ever 100%.
That's correct.
So that's what I'm looking at, and I started to think of the jobs that I've had have not been, to your point, have not been from the reactive market.
Right.
The jobs that I've always gotten have been in the proactive, and it's been through networking and people that I know, and that's how the majority of the times, it never even reaches the newspaper.
Right.
For the jobs.
Those are the good jobs. This is not about just finding a job. Remember what I told you from the beginning? If you just keep plugging away, you'll find a job. Our society allows you to do that. The Lord takes care of fools and babes. Remember that now. But if you want the right job, look in the proactive marketplace. Yes?
If I may say something, one of the things that I have been doing is using the reactive market to turn it around into a proactive market. And by that I mean that I'm looking at the boards, seeing who's the recruiter, who's the company, and then searching out if I know someone inside that company and not necessarily applying to that job.
That's a good use, but a partial use of the concept. Partial use. Let's look at that a little bit further. Go back to what you just said. Look at this chart. Of the market, how it actually operates, agencies do about 6% of the job. So you're talking about looking for recruiters? I don't know why you think recruiters do that much work, that much business, but they're around 6 to 8%.
There's a lot of,
Yeah, there's plenty of
thousands, you know, of people from the city.
Yeah, but you thought it was higher, didn't you?
I thought it was much higher myself, it's a surprise.
Agencies only represent about 6%. Now, there are going to be people that are experts who are going to argue with me. If I had a recruiter sitting in this room and says, no, that's not true. It is.
You're not including internal recruiters.
I'm talking about external agencies. Agencies. Agency recruiters, about 6%. Now, that's overall. Now, let me make sure you make sense out of this. Some companies will use recruiters primarily for jobs at a certain level. CEO, Senior Vice President of Marketing. They might do 100% of their recruiting at those two jobs or whatever through agencies. Well, I'll explain the difference. And most of you don't understand what the difference between a retainer and a contingency firm is. And you probably don't. And if you don't understand them, you don't know how to use them correctly. Okay? I've had both. I've actually owned both, run both, hired both, whatever. So there's a big difference, and you need to know the difference. It's about 12 different kinds of agencies, by the way, not just retain and contingency. But you need to know how to use them. Anyway, newspapers, magazines, job boards, about 14%. Does that agree with what you all run into? That's the internet and all that stuff. So you take those two groups there, agencies and internet and all that stuff. You know, everything that's in the newspapers now is duplicated online, so you really don't, I can take newspapers and magazines out. You can find everything that's in those, you can find them online. So the internet on a good day is about 12 to 14%. And if you're spending more than 10% of your time on that, you're making a mistake, yeah.
A relative who was using Craigslist for the job search.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good tool? I don't have no idea.
Craigslist is just one of the other tools. It's just another internet posting. I'm not trying to knock anything.
I just don't know.
The truth is that you can find a job, and it's really pretty simple mathematics. If you rely, did we lose someone?
No, I moved
Oh, you moved. I get it.
I'm here.
I'm looking for you there, and I'm thinking, well, where did she go? But you're right in front of me. If you're going to use the internet to find a job, remember, you're probably going to see only about 20% of what's out there. Just remember that. Now, you could be lucky. The job you want might fall in that 20%. You could be lucky. But what are your odds of finding the right job in that 20%? I mean, it's really literally that way. 20% of the chances of the opportunities fall in publicized jobs. That's simple. If you're looking for the right job, and if you're really, really lucky, you might find it there. But 80% tells me you got a better chance of finding the opportunity that you want in a proactive job market. Therefore, you need to know how to approach it correctly. The other thing you need to know is this. If you're going to use agencies and the internet and so forth, you really need to understand how to use those tools effectively and correctly. And most people don't know how to do that correctly. I can, but I'm not. And I'll tell you why. The reason I can't is that I'm going to run out of time. For me to teach you how to use agencies and the internet correctly is a 4-hour workshop. It is. Now, you've had some people come here and do some presentations on LinkedIn. Whenever you see a LinkedIn presentation here at Back on Track, get here. Now, the persons that I've seen so far that do the presentations are pretty good. They're not 100% right, but it doesn't matter. They don't have to be 100%. But if you learn a little bit more than you did when you walked in the room, you're better off. But any opportunity you have to learn more about how to use LinkedIn, go. And there are going to meet plenty of people that are going to tell you they're experts at it. No, they're not. I mean, they try. An expert will tell you that I'm really good at it, but I'm working at it. Okay? That's a real expert. That's a real pro. Because LinkedIn is evolving. It's always evolving. Okay? You ain't going to learn enough. And if you really, I know some people that are really, and they're much better than me. I can teach you how to use LinkedIn, but I'm not an expert on it. But I will tell you this, it's a wonderful tool, and you can always learn more, and I can always learn more. There was a presentation this past Monday at the Bonaventure, and I could not get there. I was really upset about that because I wanted to go. I don't know how it went, but I wanted to go.
You know one thing I learned LinkedIn? Go to YouTube.
Well, YouTube's another example of what you could do.
Go to YouTube and take that same experts who have done presentations and conferences.
I know that. I'm saying you can go to YouTube for everything. In fact, I'm going to put up some stuff on YouTube myself.
LinkedIn has tutorial videos.
That's right.
And the tools that they are always advancing.
Okay.
There's an evolution. You can-
All right, I'm going to move on. I just want to emphasize LinkedIn.
Those percentages that you're breaking out.
Okay.
What level of jobs is that direct people? Because I gotta believe.
All levels.
To your point,
All levels.
percent,
All levels.
it's still the same percentages.
All levels. Yes. While there are some companies that will take the route of using a retained recruiter or a recruiter to find a CEO and a senior VP, there are 80% of the companies won't do that. They're going to hire somebody they already know.
80% will hire.
They will hire somebody they already know.
Right.
That number, 80%, is an accurate number, I'm telling you. You'll find some companies that will just only use retained recruiters, and they're bigger, but 80% of the companies will actually hire somebody they know. They might guise it under a search firm, and sometimes they will bring a board already knows whom they want to hire. Let's say you got a board, has someone that he or she wants to be put into the CEO role. Okay? You got other board members that don't agree. They've got their own person that they want. Right? Or, in any case, so what they'll do is they'll hire a retained recruiter, and they'll tell them who to look for. And so the retained recruiters will go out and do all this work for them, which is very legitimate. They'll do the due diligence, okay? And they'll still hire somebody they already knew.